Tory MP for Dover decided to defect to Labour, which is a very interesting way to start this hour with one of my dearest friends who always has something to say and makes me look quite bland. Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's international editor. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon. The first thing I would say on that story is I am certain that all is not as it seems. And initially people will have thought, right, she's only doing this to hold on to her seat, because she will have calculated that there's absolutely no way, as a Tory MP who has been part of an administration that has colossally failed on immigration, and she is the MP for Dover and Deal, where so many of those migrants rock up in boats, she will have calculated she's a no-hoper. But then it emerges that she's actually standing down at the next election. So what exactly is going on here? I can't say yet that I know what the answer is, but trust me, there is something more to this. There's always a deal. I don't know what the deal is, but there will be some dirty deal that has been done. No rules broken or anything like that. I'm not implying that, but there will have been some sort of promise. I can't help thinking.
So literally you're right, because within 2 hours of her standing down, there was conversations about has she's been offered a peerage, she's stepping down, Labour have a candidate. She's apparently an expert on housing. If we just go back to the beginning, though, without being disrespectful, her husband, Charlie Elphicke, was the MP for Dover, got into some trouble, was jailed for 2 years. She was readily accepting, in fact, she was very supportive, went to court every single day with him. The day he was found guilty, she dumped him and stood for his seat. I'm not saying that people cannot change their ideology, right? We both know people who have. But it's pretty seismic, Isabel, to go from the Tory party to the Labour Party. I would have understood Elphicke and those on the right turning to reform, but I don't think anybody saw this coming, and I'm with you, there has to be something, and well, it just doesn't...
There will be, and we probably won't know what it is until after the election. On the how weird is it to go from Tory to Labour, I mean, actually, ironically, not that weird, because they're both socialist, but you're right, that what exactly has changed about Labour's policy on immigration and Labour's policy to stop the boat since Natalie Elphicke made those comments castigating the Labour Party for having no policy?
And the other thing
I'll tell you what's changed.
Go on.
Absolutely nothing.
And I'll tell you the other thing that's really interesting as well, which I think is really... And I'd love your thoughts, by the way, on this. Keep your calls coming. 0344 499 1000 on the Natalie Elphicke thing or immigration. So you've got people on the right of the Tory. I spoke to the Tory party. I spoke to Tom Hunt, spoke to Sir Keir Starmer, the tech minister. They were like, this is particularly left field because she's quite on the right. She's been quite outspoken in WhatsApp groups. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and people should not forget this, the Labour Party, in trying to be, and I was trying to put this in the right way just in the last hour, in trying to be all things to all people, as the tent gets bigger, he allowed a Labour MP who'd been accused of anti-Semitism back into the party, Julie, sorry, I don't know her name, into the party today, whilst taking Natalie Elphicke, who's on the right of the Tory party. For me, that says that when Starmer does win, which he probably will, the tent is going to be so wide, Isabel, that he's going to get it from all damn angles. Because if you try and be all things to all people, you end up messing up, don't you?
Well, I mean, I think that what Labour would say is that's a nice problem to have. You know, having a huge...
If you've got a sizable enough majority.
Having a huge majority is a nice problem to have. I mean, it happened under Blair, didn't it? And they lose people early doors, people fall out. It's the same for any political party. So I think, for Labour, they'll be pleased to have got this name. It's caused a buzz today. It creates the impression of momentum going their way politically. But it doesn't change the fundamentals, which is that a huge number of people in this country are deeply concerned and, in fact, extremely angry about what's happened with immigration under the Tories, and are going to very rapidly discover, if they haven't worked it out already, that Labour has no policy on this. Essentially, they don't want to spell it out, but they are in favour of de facto open borders.
They say, I'm paid to give all sides, they say that their policy is to tackle the gangs bringing people over and to set up a processing system based in France so that people don't end up in the United Kingdom.
Where have you heard that one before? I don't know, maybe it just sounding a little familiar to me. It sounds exactly like what the Tories have been saying for the best part of, I don't know,
have you played cricket? That's like bowling you an easy ball and you just sit it out the ground for 6. I'm with you. I believe that the whole immigration thing started with a sort of they would say it, we're going to deal with it without any real intention. I think they underestimate the British people. I think the British people are hacked off to the back teeth. Robert Jenrick, I want to bring you onto this. Today in the Express with his MP colleague Neil O'Brien saying, and I quote, "Migration is to blame for almost 90% of housing shortfalls and is piling pressure on public services. When I read that, I went, really?
Yeah,
of course. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, guys.
But you were the immigration minister.
Right, and I wonder how our listeners and viewers feel as their intelligence is insulted by Tory MPs who've held senior positions in government. Neil O'Brien actually has been very influential behind the scenes on a lot of things. He's super well connected. How do people feel, voters of this country, when they hear people who have been part of the problem telling us how they think it's gone wrong and, you know, what are we going to do to fix it? Give us a break, guys. You're part of the responsibility for where we are today. And no one should have any confidence that they can do anything different. They've had the chance.
And also, the only thing that I did agree with completely, Jen, was that, and here's another thing, I've said this to you repeatedly, how many people since John Reid 18 years ago have said the Home Office isn't fit for purpose?
Yeah.
Jenrick says the Home Office is split into two departments for immigration and policing. Now, a lot of people agree. It was interesting what Matthew Lazar said earlier. He said that's fine, but Home Secretaries tend to want to keep hold of their power, which is probably why it's never happened. Surely right now immigration is absolutely deserving of its own department, so that somebody can concentrate, no?
Labour won't do that, will they? Because, as I say, they basically, ideologically, they think more immigration is a better thing. Where I am grateful for this report is it is opening up a conversation about the direct impact the number of people who are coming in is having on public services, and they actually go some way to trying to quantify it. So they say 89% of the housing shortfall is down to extra migration. Now, that's not a racist thing to say. It's nothing to do with anyone's skin colour or where they've come from. It's numbers, not nationality. Numbers, but you know, not nationality.
I agree with you, but you know as well as I do, and I said to the boys in the last hour, I don't care what's your political party. All MPs are a disgrace when it comes to talk about housing, because they're absolutely fine to stand up, and when it comes down to will you vote for that plan in your constituency,
100%.
they all go, oh no, not in my area, but they all jump up and down and say we do need more housing, we need better services. And there's no doubt whether people like this or not, the bleeding hearts will have a go at me. If your services are under pressure, and all the bleeding hearts say, we'll spend more money, we ain't got any more money. So if your services are under pressure and people are coming into this country who aren't paying into that pot, you're screwed, aren't you? Can we take a call? Are you happy to do that? James is in Coventry. James, you're on Talk Drive with me and Isabel. What do you want to say?
What I find with both sides, Labour and Conservative, is both of them are more concerned about picking on each other, slagging each other off, and, you know, saying, oh, she said the wrong person, that person said the wrong person. And they're arguing amongst themselves instead of concentrating on trying to get the country right.
I think that's half the problem. Isabel might agree with me. Politics is politics, and you see that thing with Elphicke today, and it's point scoring for Keir Starmer against Rishi Sunak, who was helpless. There's a gentleman saying to us, absolutely, Isabel, I want a government, I want an opposition party that talks about how they're going to make a difference and change what's bad in the country. That's what we want. And I think you made a great point earlier. I think we shouldn't overestimate the fact that the British electorate are far more switched on than they've ever been, in my humble opinion.
I mean, the whole thing about arguing with each other, if I can very briefly defend politicians on this, sometimes they are actually arguing about the best solutions to come to. I think what the caller doesn't like is how personal it can get. There is an argument, a nice argument to have, about whether we now need proportional representation so that there is a more collaborative form of government. The way our government is structured, where you've got a leading party and an opposition, it's literally physically set up to argue. You know, that when people look at Prime Minister's questions, they see two sides facing each other for a fight. That's the way.
But you would understand where James is coming from. He's saying, I want to hear. You want meat on the bone, James, right?
Yeah, I don't want him arguing about, you know, certain things, but when they get on, it's like, oh, she said the wrong thing, she's anti-Semitism, and she's racist and all that.
Yeah.
We don't care about that. We just care about sorting the country out.
Yeah, all this fake offence, you know, people being offended. People,
and not talking to the electorate, talking at them.
And talking to each other.
Roll up your sleeves, accept there's problems in this country and try and represent people. James, thank you very much indeed. Can I also talk about the other thing that got me today, Isabel? The prisoners thing, have you looked at this quickly? Some prisoners will be freed up to 70 days early after ministers quietly extended an emergency early release scheme to alleviate the prison overcrowding crisis. Am I the only person person in a sane world, why don't we build more prisons? Oh, because we can't build any bloody houses, so nobody's going to want prisons. Are we just going to release everybody and say that this crime doesn't matter?
Look, the state of the criminal justice system is an absolute scandal. Dreadful. And I think people they know somehow that things aren't right, but the sheer scale of it, I think, is ripe for a big expose. And what we're getting is people doing dreadful things, and then they are not put on trial for very, very long periods. And equally, there are people who've done tiny things who are also stuck in the queue, or people who are innocent who are stuck in a long queue. Any day you go to the courts, I hear, there's always some shambles. Police don't turn up to give evidence. So-and-so doesn't turn up. So-and-so else doesn't turn up. And everybody sits around wasting their time, and the backlog gets worse. And meanwhile, we simply do not have enough jail spaces. And nobody in this country wants dangerous people to be roaming free.
So this plan is, an email sent to probation and prison staff said measures introduced less than 2 months ago failed to ease the pressure. What is this going to be? This is going to be certain crimes, get out and have some community service, right? But we're also talking about people running shops who, if a burglar nicks less than 200 quid, a shop, you know, a tea leaf, the police won't come. So what are we saying? Only certain crimes send you to prison. It's ridiculous.
I also think it's time for this community service that we hear so much about to be a bit more visible. Have you ever seen, or have you ever actually witnessed
only a celebrity in a high-vis jacket on the front of the Mail, probably.
Actually, maybe it's time that they did wear high-vis jackets and we could actually see them giving back to the community, because I'm not convinced any of it ever actually gets done.
Very interesting. I have to do this before you go. We've talked about Natalie Elphicke. I'm throwing this right at you, but you must have heard this today.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the Jobsworth Council in Cambridge?
No.
Right, this is pure Oakeshott. Watch your face. Residents in a market town that has its awards for floral displays for years, this is Charteris in Bloom, have been told they must complete a £165 safety course or hire a contractor to hang their baskets on street lights going forward. This is new council rules. The council said because the street lights were connected to the power grid, it needed to ensure everyone's safety. So I got on from Cambridge whatever newspaper, the editor, who I thought would be on my side. Oh, no, he said, this is very important. I said, they're Jobsworth idiots, man. You need to go on a course, Ms Oakeshott, to hang a hanging basket. The world's gone nuts.
I mean, the government of all forms, whether it's national government, local government, it's full of this stuff. And you know what? I'm picturing a nice day out. You and I can go and hang the hanging basket. How funny would that be?
Mate,
come on.
Can I replay you a clip? This is this earlier interview, because I know Mike's watching. This is fantastic. This is the leader of Cambridge newspaper who agreed with the people who think they're not Jobsworth. Have a listen. The world's gone nuts. People hanging baskets needs to go on a course. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's a very simple risk assessment. It's not a course. It's a
hanging basket, man. It's not anything more than that.
Okay, we had somebody the other day, last year, run over in a holiday park near us. I mean, what health and safety risk assessments were done there? And then I don't know.
Are you honestly telling me, as the editor of Cambridge News, that you think it's relevant that people who simply want to hang a hanging basket of flowers need to commit? Don't you think we've become a bit soft?
The council is correct to protect itself.
No, I think they're all Jobsworth. Am I all right to be able to hold this glass of water, or should I fill in a bleeding form or go on a course? Oh no, I might cut myself. Ryan, I'm having a breakdown. I mean, I am having a break. I mean, really?
Get me out of here. I mean, what has become of us? Honestly, look, you think about the Chinese and the Russians, and they're just laughing at us at this point. If we need taxpayer-funded courses to hang a flipping basket, what hope have we got if we're invaded?
Jeremy, surely the council have already done a risk assessment regarding the lamppost safety, or they wouldn't be working. What about dogs who pee on it? Helen and Burnham-on-Sea. See, a dog pees on a lamp, right? That's a very interesting point. Thank you, from Helen Burnham-on-Sea. What if you're taking your dog and it has a wee against the lamp? The National Grid, that could set everything off. The dog could be electrocuted.
I never thought of that.
Has the dog done a course? That's what we deal with, you see.
Yeah.
The world's gone nuts. It's great to have you on. I love having you on this show. Thank you very much indeed.